Zektar pushed his empty glass across the metal table and looked around the crowded cantina. Smoke filled the air, and dozens of different alien voices mixed together in the large room. This was Nexus Prime, the biggest trade station in the Outer Rim. Mercenaries from across the galaxy came here to find work, drink, and share stories. The big Vorthak warrior had been coming to this same cantina for 20 years. His dark purple skin showed many scars from old battles. His 4 arms moved smoothly as he reached for another drink. Tonight, like many nights, he sat with other mercenaries at their usual table near the back wall. "So there I was," said Krex, a small green alien with too many eyes. 50 hegemony soldiers surrounding me, just me and my plasma rifle. He waved his thin arms around as he talked. But did I run? No way. I stood my ground and fought them all. The others at the table rolled their eyes. They had heard this story many times before. Krex always made himself sound braver than he really was. "What about you, Scylla?" Zektar asked the blue-skinned female sitting next to him. "What's the scariest thing you ever fought?" Scylla thought for a moment. Her silver eyes glowed softly in the dim light. "The crystal beings on Voltara 7, they could turn their bodies into pure energy. Very hard to kill something that can become light itself." "Good choice," nodded Thane, a massive rock-like creature. "Those crystal folk are dangerous. What about the Zephyrian hive minds? All those bodies sharing one brain. Cut off the head, and 10 more grow back." The conversation continued like this for a while. Each mercenary talked about the most dangerous enemies they had faced. Some mentioned the acid-spitting Korath. Others talked about the shape-shifting Valdari who could look like anyone. Then someone mentioned humans. The table went quiet for a moment. Most of the mercenaries just shrugged. Humans were new to the galaxy. They had only made contact with other species about 200 years ago, compared to races that had been spacefaring for thousands of years. Humans were like children. "Humans?" laughed Krex. "Those pink things from Earth? They're not scary at all. Small, weak, no natural weapons. I heard they don't even have proper claws or fangs." "Yeah," agreed Scylla. "They're not very fast either, and their technology is pretty basic compared to most species." But across the table, old Grix remained silent. The one-armed Kelthrian stared down at his drink with his remaining good eye. His cybernetic replacement flickered red in the dark. "You got something to say, old-timer?" asked Thane. Grix slowly lifted his head. His wrinkled face looked tired and sad. "Never fight humans," he said quietly. "Never even make them angry. I have seen what they do when you push them too far." The younger mercenaries laughed again. "Come on, Grix," said Krex. "You're just getting old. Humans are harmless." Grix raised his missing arm. Where his left arm should have been, there was only empty space. "See this? A human female did this to me. She was maybe half my size, came up to about my chest." The laughter stopped. Everyone stared at the empty sleeve. "This was during the trouble on Kepler Station," Grix continued. "Some refugee ship had broken down, mostly families with children. The station boss wanted them gone, so he hired us to remove them. Simple job, we thought." Grix took a long drink before continuing. "This human woman was with the refugees. She was some kind of doctor or teacher. When we came to move them out, she stepped in front of us. Just stood there with her arms spread wide, protecting those children behind her." "So what happened?" asked Scylla softly. "We told her to move. She said no. We showed our weapons. She still said no, so we tried to push past her." Grix's cybernetic eye flashed brighter. That's when everything went wrong. The cantina seemed to grow quieter around their table. Other conversations faded into background noise. "She fought us," Grix said. "All 6 of us. With nothing but some tools she grabbed from a repair kit. She should have died in the first few seconds, but she kept fighting, even when we broke her arm. even when she was bleeding from a dozen wounds, even when any sane creature would have given up. "But she's just one human," protested Krex. "You had 6 soldiers." "That's what we thought," Grix nodded. "But humans don't think like we do. They don't calculate odds or worry about getting hurt. When they protect something they care about, they become something else, something that doesn't know how to quit." He pointed to his missing arm. "She ripped this off with her bare hands. A creature half my size and weight. The medic said she had enough adrenaline in her system to kill most species. But she just kept fighting until station security arrived." The table was completely silent now. Even the loud conversations at nearby tables seemed far away. "The worst part," Grix whispered, "was her eyes. Most creatures show fear when they fight, or anger, or pain, but her eyes were just cold, determined, like she had already decided she would die before letting us hurt those children, and she was completely okay with that choice." Other old mercenaries at nearby tables had started listening. Some of them nodded their heads sadly. "I heard similar stories," said an ancient Valdari female. "Humans on the mining world of Cressida. Company tried to force them off their land. 300 humans against 1,000 corporate soldiers. The humans lost, but they made it cost so much that the company gave up and left." "New Singapore incident," added a scarred hegemony veteran. 50 human colonists held off an entire battle fleet for 6 months. They had no chance of winning, but they just wouldn't surrender. Zektar listened to these stories with growing confusion. None of it made sense. Humans were supposed to be weak and soft. How could they cause so much trouble for professional soldiers? "You're all just getting old," he said finally. "Humans are nothing special, just another species trying to make their way in the galaxy." Grix looked at him with his remaining eye. "I hope you never have to learn the truth, young one. I really do." The conversation slowly moved on to other topics, but Zektar noticed that none of the older mercenaries joined in anymore. They just sat quietly, lost in their own thoughts. Later that night, as the cantina was closing, Zektar walked over to the job board near the entrance. New contracts were posted every day. Most were simple work: escort duty, cargo protection, debt collection. One posting caught his attention: very high pay for what looked like an easy job. Simple extraction mission on an agricultural world. The client was offering 10 times the usual rate. Zektar read the details carefully. Everything looked straightforward. Low security, minimal population, standard colonial defenses. The only thing that gave him pause was one small detail at the bottom of the posting. Target location: Human Colony World of New Harmony. He stared at the posting for a long moment. Then he thought about Grix's warnings and the stories from the other veterans. But the money was too good to pass up. How dangerous could a bunch of farmers really be? Zektar reached up and tore the posting from the board. Behind him, he didn't notice Grix watching from his table, slowly shaking his head. 3 days later, Zektar stood in the polished offices of Hegemony Extraction Services. The building was tall and clean, very different from the dirty cantina where he usually found work. Everything here was white and silver, designed to show how rich and powerful the hegemony was. His contact was a tall, thin alien named Velthar. The hegemony administrator had smooth gray skin and large black eyes that never seemed to blink. He wore expensive clothes and spoke in a calm, cold voice. "Thank you for coming, Zektar," Velthar said as they sat down in his office. "I have reviewed your record. Very impressive. 37 successful missions, 0 failures. This is exactly what we need for this particular job." Zektar leaned back in his chair. "The posting mentioned high pay. What's the catch?" Velthar smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Direct to the point. I like that. The job is simple extraction. We need you to retrieve a human scientist named Dr. Elena Vasquez from the colony world New Harmony." What did she do? She discovered something valuable in the local ecosystem. Our client, a pharmaceutical company, wants to buy her research. But Dr. Vasquez has refused all offers to sell. She claims the research should be free for everyone to use. Velthar pulled up a hologram showing a middle-aged human woman with brown hair and tired eyes. She was wearing a simple white lab coat and looked like any other scientist Zektar had seen. Humans are very stubborn about their independence, Velthar continued. They have strange ideas about sharing knowledge. Our client tried legal methods first, but the human colonial government stepped in to protect her. So you want me to kidnap her? Extract, Velthar corrected. This is a perfectly legal operation under hegemony law. We have the proper permits. You will simply collect Dr. Vasquez and her research data, then bring them to our facility for debriefing. Zektar studied the hologram. The human didn't look dangerous. She looked like any other scientist. Soft, weak, probably never held a weapon in her life. What kind of security am I looking at? Minimal, Velthar said, pulling up more displays. New Harmony is an agricultural colony with about 800 humans. No military base, no defense fleet, just farmers, scientists, and their families. The research station where Dr. Vasquez works is on the edge of the settlement. Very isolated. The images showed rolling green fields, simple buildings, and humans working in gardens and laboratories. It looked peaceful and quiet, nothing like the dangerous military worlds Zektar usually worked on. Any weapons? Basic hunting rifles for dealing with local wildlife, maybe some mining equipment that could be dangerous in the wrong hands, but nothing a professional team couldn't handle easily. Zektar nodded. I'll need my usual crew, 6 specialists, plus myself. Of course, your reputation comes partly from your excellent team selection. Over the next 2 hours, Velthar provided detailed mission files. New Harmony had been settled 50 years ago by humans looking for a quiet place to farm and do research. The planet had rich soil and a mild climate, perfect for growing food and studying plant life. Dr. Vasquez had been on the planet for 5 years, studying local biology. 3 months ago, she had discovered something in the native plants that could cure several major diseases. But instead of selling the information to the highest bidder, she had announced plans to give it away for free. Very typical human behavior, Velthar said with disgust. They have no understanding of proper business practices. That evening, Zektar met with his team at a secure warehouse on the station. These were the same mercenaries he had worked with for years. Each one was an expert in their field. Thos was his demolition specialist. The huge Chronari looked like a walking mountain, with thick brown skin that could stop small weapons fire. But he was surprisingly gentle and smart. He could blow up a building or disarm a bomb with equal skill. Sis was the team's sniper. The tall, thin Velkari female had perfect eyesight and steady hands. Her pale blue skin could change color to match her surroundings, making her nearly invisible when she wanted to be. Mind Node 7 was their intelligence officer. The Zephyrian's brain was connected to thousands of data networks across the galaxy. He could hack almost any computer system and predict enemy movements with frightening accuracy. The other 3 team members were specialists in communications, medical support, and heavy weapons. All of them had worked together many times before. They trusted each other completely. So we're going after humans, said Thos as he looked at the mission files. I've heard some strange stories about them. What kind of stories? Asked Sis. They have this thing called pack bonding. Apparently, humans form very strong emotional connections, not just with other humans, but with any group they consider family. Makes them fight harder when protecting each other. Sis pulled up information about human colonies on her datapad. Says here that human settlements are unusually close-knit communities, much more cooperation than most species show. Mind Node 7 processed the tactical data through his neural networks. New Harmony shows normal colonial patterns, 847 human inhabitants, mostly families involved in agriculture and scientific research. No military presence detected. Weapons signatures show only basic tools and hunting equipment. He paused as more data flowed through his consciousness. Tactical assessment indicates minimal resistance. Humans will likely offer brief token opposition before surrendering to superior force. This is standard behavior for non-military populations when faced with professional soldiers. "Any special considerations for dealing with humans?" asked their medic, a careful Altarian named Helix. "Standard protocols should work fine," Mind Node 7 replied. "Humans respond to shows of force and logical arguments. Once they understand the situation is hopeless, they will cooperate to minimize casualties." Zektar looked around at his team. "Questions?" "Timeline?" asked Sis. "In and out in 6 hours maximum. We go in during their night cycle when most of the population is asleep. Grab the doctor and her research, then leave before the colony can organize any real response." "What if they try to stop us?" asked Thos. "A few farmers with hunting rifles against professional soldiers? I don't think that will be a problem." The team spent the rest of the evening preparing their equipment and studying the colony layout. Everything looked straightforward. The research station was clearly marked on all the maps. Dr. Vasquez's living quarters were in a separate building nearby. Simple extraction. Get in, grab the target, get out. Their ship launched from Nexus Prime early the next morning. The journey to New Harmony would take 3 days, plenty of time to review the plan and prepare for any complications. As they approached the human colony world, Zektar felt confident about the mission. 800 farmers against 7 professional soldiers? The humans didn't stand a chance. On the second day of travel, they received a message from New Harmony's communications center. The voice was calm and polite, clearly human. "Unknown vessel, this is New Harmony Colony Control. Please identify yourselves and state your business in this system." Zektar responded with a fake cargo manifest. "Independent Freighter Wanderer. We're carrying agricultural supplies for delivery to your colony." There was a pause before the human responded. "Wanderer, we have no record of any supply shipment scheduled for today. Please provide proper shipping authorization codes." "We're having trouble with our communication systems," Zektar lied smoothly. "The codes may not be transmitting correctly. Request permission to approach the colony for manual verification." Another pause, longer this time. When the human spoke again, his voice was different. Still polite, but with an edge of suspicion. "Unknown vessel, you are not welcome here. Turn back now or face the consequences." Zektar looked at his team and laughed. "Did you hear that? They're threatening us. What consequences could a farming community possibly have?" Thos chuckled. "Maybe they'll throw vegetables at us." Sis smiled. "Or bore us to death with lectures about crop rotation." Even Mind Node 7 seemed amused. "Human agricultural colonies have no significant weapons or defenses. Their threat is meaningless." But as their ship entered New Harmony's atmosphere, Zektar felt a small doubt in the back of his mind. He remembered old Grix's warnings and the stories from other veterans. He pushed those thoughts away. This was just a simple extraction job. What could go wrong? Zektar and his team landed their ship in a forest clearing about 5 kilometers from the research station. The night air was cool and filled with strange smells from the alien plants. New Harmony had 2 moons, and their light made everything look silver and mysterious. "Remember," Zektar whispered into his communication device, "we want Dr. Vasquez alive and unhurt. Use stun weapons only. No unnecessary damage." The team moved through the darkness like ghosts. Years of training and experience made them silent and invisible. Thos carried sensors that could detect any electronic devices. Sis watched through her rifle scope for any movement. Mind Node 7 monitored all communication signals from the colony. "No security patrols detected," Mind Node 7 reported. "All communication traffic is normal civilian chatter. The colony appears to be sleeping." They reached the edge of the research station after 30 minutes of careful movement. The building was exactly where the intelligence reports said it would be. A simple two-story structure made of local materials, surrounded by gardens and experimental growing plots. "Too easy," muttered Sis, as she set up her sniper position on a nearby hill. "Easy is good," Zektar replied. "Let's keep it that way." Thos checked the building's security systems. "Basic locks, simple alarm system, nothing military grade. I can get us inside in 2 minutes." "Do it!" But when Thos tried to open the main door, something unexpected happened. Lights started turning on all over the research station, not just inside the building, but in the surrounding areas as well. Emergency lighting, work lamps, even the street lights in the distant colony. "That's not normal," said Helix nervously. Mind Node 7's cybernetic implants flashed rapidly as he processed data. "The security system is more complex than our intelligence indicated. It appears to be connected to the entire colony's network." Suddenly, voices started coming from speakers hidden around the research station. Human voices, calm and clear. "Attention unauthorized visitors. You are trespassing on private property. Please leave immediately or we will be forced to take action." Zektar looked around in confusion. Where were the speakers? How did they know exactly where his team was located? "Thos, get that door open now." "Working on it." The big Chronari's tools sparked as he cut through the electronic locks. "There, we're in." They rushed into the building, hoping to grab Dr. Vasquez quickly and leave before the colonists could organize any real resistance. But the research station was empty. Not just empty of people, empty of everything. No equipment, no research data, no personal belongings. "She's not here," reported the team member searching the upper floors. "Check everything," Zektar ordered. "Labs, offices, storage rooms. She has to be somewhere." But Dr. Vasquez was nowhere to be found. Worse, it was clear that the research station had been evacuated recently. There were still warm cups of coffee on the tables and computers that had been shut down just minutes before. "Sir," called Sis from her sniper position, "I have movement all around the building. Lots of movement." Zektar ran to a window and looked out. In the moonlight, he could see figures moving through the gardens and fields around the research station. Dozens of them, maybe more. They moved carefully and quietly, but they were definitely surrounding the building. "Just farmers," he told himself. How dangerous can farmers be? He was about to find out. The first attack came from underground. Thos was standing near what looked like a simple floor drain when water started bubbling up around his feet. But it wasn't water. It was some kind of acidic liquid that began eating through his boots. "Chemical attack!" Thos shouted as he jumped away from the drain. The acid had already burned through the soles of his boots and started on his feet. Before anyone could react, more drains opened throughout the building. Streams of different chemicals poured out, some acidic, some caustic, some just slippery enough to make walking dangerous. How did they get chemicals into the plumbing system? Mind Node 7 wondered, as his computer brain tried to process what was happening. The answer came from the building's speakers. Dr. Vasquez's voice, calm and professional. "Fertilizer production facility, gentlemen. We make all kinds of interesting compounds here. Some of them are quite useful for more than just growing plants." "Show yourself," Zektar shouted. "I'm afraid I can't do that, but I can give you some free advice. Leave now, while you still can. You have no idea what you're dealing with." Sis's voice crackled over the radio. "Sir, I've lost visual on the targets outside. They've disappeared." "What do you mean disappeared?" "I mean they're not there anymore. 50 humans just vanished into thin air." That's when the real attacks began. The humans didn't fight like any enemy Zektar had ever faced. They didn't charge the building with weapons drawn. They didn't try to storm the defenses. Instead, they used the research station itself as a weapon. Lights started flashing in patterns designed to confuse alien vision. Sound systems played frequencies that hurt non-human ears. The building's heating system pumped out smells that made most species feel sick and dizzy. When Zektar's team tried to leave through the main door, they found it blocked by a maze of metal pipes and agricultural equipment. Someone had built a barricade while they were inside, but none of them had heard any construction noises. "The windows!" Zektar ordered. But when they tried to break the windows, they discovered that the glass had been replaced with some kind of flexible material that bent instead of breaking. They could hit it with their weapons, but it just bounced back. "Sir!" Helix called from the back of the building. "I found another way out, but what? You need to see this." Zektar ran to where his medic was standing. Helix was looking at a hole that had been cut in the rear wall. It was perfectly sized for a human to crawl through, but too small for any of Zektar's team. "They planned this," Mind Node 7 said with something like awe in his electronic voice. "They knew exactly who we were and how big we are. This whole building is a trap designed specifically for us." Through the small hole, they could hear Dr. Vasquez's voice again. "We've been watching your ship since you entered our system. We know who you are, who sent you, and exactly what you want. We also know all about your species and how you fight." "How?" Zektar demanded. "We're scientists," came the reply. "We study things, and humans have been studying alien mercenaries for 200 years. We know your strengths, your weaknesses, your tactics, and your psychology." Sis's voice came over the radio again, and this time she sounded worried. "Sir, my equipment is malfunctioning. Someone is jamming my targeting systems with mirrors and lights. I can't get a clear shot at anything." Outside, the voices of human colonists could be heard coordinating their activities. But they weren't using radio or any electronic communication that Mind Node 7 could intercept. They were using simple hand signals and whispers. "This is impossible," Mind Node 7 said as his systems tried to process the tactical situation. "Untrained civilians cannot outmaneuver professional soldiers. It does not compute." But that's exactly what was happening. Every move Zektar's team made was anticipated and countered. Every piece of equipment they relied on was somehow neutralized or turned against them. Every advantage they thought they had proved to be useless. Thos tried to blow a hole in the wall with his explosives, but the charges wouldn't detonate. Someone had used electromagnetic fields to disable the electronic triggers. When the team tried to call their ship for emergency extraction, they discovered that all their communication equipment was being jammed by signals coming from modified farming equipment scattered throughout the colony. "How are they doing this?" Zektar asked desperately. Dr. Vasquez answered from somewhere outside the building. "Same way we learned to grow crops on alien worlds, gentlemen. We adapt. We improvise. We figure out how to use what we have to solve the problems we face. And right now," she continued, "you're the problem we need to solve." As the hours passed, Zektar realized that his simple extraction mission had turned into something else entirely. He wasn't hunting Dr. Vasquez anymore. She was hunting him. And somewhere in the darkness outside the research station, 800 human colonists were helping her do it. The strangest part was that nobody seemed to be trying to kill them. The chemicals burned, but not fatally. The sounds hurt, but didn't cause permanent damage. The electromagnetic fields disabled equipment, but didn't harm the team members directly. It was like the humans were playing with them, testing them, studying them. "Sir," Helix said quietly, "I think we might be in serious trouble." Zektar looked around at his trapped, confused, and increasingly frightened team. Through the speakers, he could hear children singing somewhere in the distance. Human children singing lullabies while their parents hunted professional soldiers through the night. For the first time in his long career, Zektar began to understand what old Grix had been trying to tell him. Humans weren't just another species. They were something else entirely. Dawn came slowly to New Harmony, and Zektar's team was still trapped in the research station. What should have been a 6-hour mission had turned into an all-night siege. Worse, they were no closer to finding Dr. Vasquez than when they started. Through the windows, Zektar could see the results of the night's activities. The building was completely surrounded by obstacles that seemed to grow out of the ground itself. Farm equipment had been arranged into defensive positions. Irrigation pipes had been redirected to create moats and barriers. Even the local wildlife seemed to be working with the humans. "Sir," Sis reported over the radio, "I had to abandon my sniper position. They used trained birds to drop mud and leaves on my scope. Every time I cleaned it off, more birds would come. It was like they were taking turns." Birds? Zektar couldn't believe what he was hearing. Native species. But they were definitely being directed by someone. The humans have somehow trained the local animals to help them. Mind Node 7 was having his own problems. The Zephyrian's advanced computer brain, which could predict enemy movements with amazing accuracy, had been completely useless against the humans. "Their tactics make no sense," he kept muttering. "They should prioritize individual survival over group goals. They should negotiate when facing superior firepower. They should follow logical behavioral patterns." But the humans didn't do any of those things. Instead, they fought like a single organism with 800 parts, each part knowing exactly what the others were doing without any visible communication. During the night, several of Zektar's team members had been injured. Not seriously, but enough to slow them down and hurt their confidence. Thoss's feet were still tender from the acid burns. Helix had cuts from trying to break through the modified windows. Their communications specialist had a concussion from slipping on the chemical-covered floors. But the humans had done something even more disturbing than injuring them. They had started talking to them, not threatening or demanding surrender, just talking. Casual conversation through the building's speakers, like neighbors chatting over a fence. "Is everyone okay in there?" Dr. Vasquez had asked around midnight. "We have medical supplies if anyone needs treatment. There's fresh coffee and sandwiches by the south door," an elderly human man had offered. "We figured you might be hungry." "My daughter wants to know what your homeworld is like," a woman had said to Sis specifically. "She's studying xenobiology and thinks Velkari culture sounds fascinating." The team didn't know how to respond to this kind of treatment. Enemies were supposed to be angry or afraid or aggressive. They weren't supposed to offer coffee and ask about your family. When morning came, things got even stranger. Instead of pressing their advantage or demanding surrender, the humans seemed to settle in for a long wait. Children could be heard playing games in the distance. Adults discussed farming techniques and research projects. Life in the colony continued as if there wasn't a squad of armed mercenaries trapped in their research station. "This is psychological warfare," Mind Node 7 announced. "They are trying to break our morale by acting normal." But Zektar wasn't so sure it was an act. The humans really did seem to be going about their regular business while keeping one eye on their prisoners. Around midday, something happened that changed everything. Sis was captured. She had been trying to reach the team's ship to call for backup when a group of human teenagers surrounded her. Not soldiers or security guards. Actual teenagers, some of them barely old enough to be considered adults. "Drop your weapons," one of them had said politely. "We don't want to hurt you, but we can't let you leave either." Sis could have killed several of them before they stopped her. Her training and experience far exceeded anything these young humans could have, but something about their calm confidence made her hesitate. "You don't understand," she told them. "I'm a professional soldier, you're just children." "We understand perfectly," replied a girl who couldn't have been more than 16. "You're scared and far from home and doing a job you probably don't really believe in. We've all been there." "Been where?" "Lost," said another teenager. "My family came here as refugees when I was little. Dr. Vasquez helped us start over when nobody else would." They didn't point weapons at her or threaten violence. They just stood there, blocking her path, talking about their lives and their families and their hopes for the future. "Why are you telling me this?" Sis asked. "Because you need to understand what you're really fighting," the first girl said. "You think you're here to kidnap one scientist, but Dr. Vasquez isn't just one person to us. She's family, and humans don't abandon family." When Sis didn't immediately surrender, the teenagers did something unexpected. They called for help, not from soldiers or security forces, but from their parents. Within minutes, Sis was surrounded by entire families, mothers holding babies, fathers with tools still in their hands from their morning work, grandparents leaning on walking sticks, all of them calm, all of them determined. "Please come with us," an elderly woman said gently. "We promise nobody will hurt you. We just want to talk." Sis looked around at the crowd of civilians. She could fight her way out. Her training told her to fight, but something about these humans made her lower her weapon instead. "Okay," she said quietly. "I'll come." They took her to the colony's medical center, where Dr. Vasquez was waiting. The human scientist looked tired but calm as she examined Sis's minor injuries from the night before. "I'm sorry about the rough treatment," Dr. Vasquez said as she cleaned a cut on Sis's arm. "We tried to make the research station as uncomfortable as possible without causing serious harm. You understand, we had to protect ourselves." "Why are you helping me?" Sis asked. "Because that's what we do," Dr. Vasquez replied simply. "You're hurt and far from home. Doesn't matter why you came here or who sent you. You need help, so we help." As Dr. Vasquez worked, she explained her research. The discovery that had caused all this trouble was a cure for Velkari scale disease, a condition that killed thousands of Sis's people every year. "Your employers want to buy this research so they can control who gets the cure and how much it costs," Dr. Vasquez said. "They want to turn medicine into a weapon. How many of your people will die while they negotiate prices and licensing agreements?" She showed Sis the research data on her computer. "This belongs to everyone, all the species who need it, including yours." While this was happening, back at the research station, Zektar was losing more team members, not to injury or capture, but to something even more dangerous: doubt. Helix was the next to break. The team medic had been listening to the conversations between the humans outside, and what he heard troubled him deeply. "Sir," he said to Zektar, "I think we need to reconsider this mission." "What do you mean?" "These people aren't criminals or terrorists. They're doctors and teachers and farmers. They're trying to help people, and we're here to stop them." "We're here to do a job," Zektar reminded him. "Nothing more." But the doubt was spreading. Even Thas, the most loyal member of the team, was asking questions. "Sir, what if Dr. Vasquez is right? What if this medicine could save lives? Are we really going to help some corporation lock it away for profit?" Mind Node 7 tried to analyze the situation logically. "Mission parameters have not changed. We were hired to extract the target and her research. Personal opinions about the client's motives are irrelevant." But even the Zephyrian's computer-like brain was struggling with the contradictions. Everything he knew about tactics and psychology said the humans should have been easy to defeat. Instead, they had turned his own team against each other without firing a single shot. Late in the afternoon, a rescue ship arrived to extract Sis from the colony. But when the pilot contacted her, she refused to leave. "I'm staying," she announced over the radio. "These people need help, and I'm going to give it to them." "Sis, what are you talking about?" Zektar demanded. "I'm talking about doing the right thing for once," she replied. "Dr. Vasquez has offered to share her research with everyone, including our species. Why would I stop her?" Over the next few hours, 2 more team members made the same decision. They surrendered to the humans and asked to help with the medical research instead of continuing the mission. By evening, Zektar had only 3 team members left, and they were all questioning the mission. Outside, the human colonists continued their patient siege, offering food and medical care while making it clear that they would never give up Dr. Vasquez. "Sir," Helix said quietly, "maybe it's time to admit we've lost." Zektar looked around at his remaining team. They were tired, confused, and demoralized. In 30 years of mercenary work, he had never seen professional soldiers broken down this way. The humans hadn't defeated them with superior firepower or clever tactics. They had defeated them with something much more dangerous: the truth. And the truth was that Zektar's team was on the wrong side of this fight. But he wasn't ready to give up yet. There was still one card left to play, one tactic that should work against any enemy, no matter how clever or determined they were. Tomorrow, he would take Dr. Vasquez hostage. That would force the colonists to surrender. It had to, didn't it? On the second morning of the siege, Zektar made his decision. He was down to 3 team members, trapped in a building surrounded by farmers, and his mission was falling apart. It was time for desperate measures. "We're going to take Dr. Vasquez hostage," he announced to his remaining team. Mind Node 7 processed this information. Hostage scenarios have a 78% success rate against emotional species. Humans demonstrate strong protective instincts toward group members. This tactic should be effective. Helix looked uncomfortable. "Sir, are we really going to threaten a civilian?" "We're going to do whatever it takes to complete the mission," Zektar replied firmly. "These humans have been playing games with us. Time to remind them who the professionals are." But first, they had to find her. Dr. Vasquez had been communicating through the building's speakers, but they still didn't know where she actually was. For 2 days, she had remained hidden somewhere in the colony. The answer came from an unexpected source. Around midday, the building's main door opened, and Dr. Vasquez walked in, alone, unarmed, carrying a medical kit. "I heard some of your team were injured," she said calmly. "I thought you might need help." Zektar couldn't believe it. After everything that had happened, she was just walking into their hands. He raised his weapon and pointed it at her. "Don't move," he ordered. "You're coming with us." Dr. Vasquez looked at the weapon pointed at her chest, then at Zektar's face. She didn't seem afraid. If anything, she looked sad. "I was hoping it wouldn't come to this," she said quietly. "Shut up," Zektar snapped. He activated his communication device. "Attention all colonists. I have Dr. Vasquez. Any attempt to interfere and she dies. You have 1 hour to clear a path to our ship and provide safe passage off-world." There was silence for a long moment. Then, slowly, voices began responding over the colony's communication system. "We hear you," came the reply from the colony center. "Please don't hurt her." 1 hour, Zektar repeated. "Then we leave, and nobody gets hurt." But as the minutes passed, something strange happened. Instead of clearing a path or negotiating, the colonists began doing something else entirely. They came out of their homes and buildings, all of them, men, women, children, elderly people, everyone in the colony. 847 humans, walking calmly toward the research station. "Sir," Helix said nervously, "what are they doing?" Through the windows, Zektar could see the crowd approaching. They weren't running or shouting or carrying weapons. They were just walking, steadily and silently, toward the building. "Stay back!" Zektar yelled through the speakers. "I have a hostage!" But the humans didn't stop. They formed a circle around the research station, standing about 10 meters away from the building, close enough that Zektar could see their faces clearly. And what he saw in those faces made him understand why old Grix had been so afraid. It wasn't anger or fear or desperation. It was something much more frightening: cold, patient determination. The look of people who had already decided what they were willing to sacrifice and were completely at peace with that decision. "Let her go," called an elderly man from the crowd. His voice was steady and calm. "Let her go, and you can leave safely." I'm the one making demands here, Zektar shouted back. Dr. Vasquez spoke softly from where she stood with a weapon pointed at her. Zektar, you have two choices. Let me go and leave peacefully, or discover why nobody conquers humans. What's that supposed to mean? It means, said a woman from the crowd, that you've misunderstood something fundamental about us. More voices joined in from different parts of the circle, not shouting or threatening, just talking in calm, reasonable tones. You think we're soft because we try to avoid violence. You think we're weak because we prefer negotiation to fighting. You think we'll surrender because we care about each other. But you've got it backwards, called a teenager from the edge of the crowd. We don't avoid violence because we're weak. We avoid it because we're very, very good at it. An old farmer stepped forward from the crowd. His hands were shaking with age, but his voice was rock steady. Son, I lost my boy in the Vegan War. These people here, they're my family now. You hurt Elena, and you'll learn why humans spent 10,000 years becoming the most successful predator species on our homeworld. Zektar looked around at the circle of faces surrounding him. 800 humans, from children barely able to walk to elderly people leaning on walking sticks, all of them looking at him with the same expression. This is insane, he muttered. You're just farmers and scientists. You can't fight trained soldiers. Dr. Vasquez smiled sadly. We've been trying to tell you, we don't want to fight you. We've been hoping you would just leave. But if you force us... She reached into her medical kit and pulled out a small injector. Before anyone could stop her, she pressed it against her own neck and activated it. Paralytic drug, she explained as her legs began to wobble. Temporary, but it makes me useless as a hostage. Can't walk, can't be moved easily, and definitely can't be used as leverage. As Dr. Vasquez collapsed to the floor, unable to move but still conscious and alert, the circle of colonists began to move closer, not running or charging, just walking forward slowly and steadily, closing the distance between themselves and the research station. "Stay back!" Zektar screamed, waving his weapon at the crowd. "I'll shoot!" "No, you won't," called a young mother carrying a baby. "Because you're not a killer. You're just someone who got in over his head." The colonists continued their slow advance. 10 meters became 8, then 6, then 4. Soon they would be close enough to rush the building, and Zektar knew that no amount of firepower could stop 800 determined humans at close range. "This is impossible," Mind Node 7 said, his electronic voice filled with confusion. "They should be afraid. They should negotiate. They should not be willing to sacrifice themselves for one individual." "But we're not sacrificing ourselves for one individual," explained a man from the crowd. "We're protecting our family, all of us, and humans don't abandon family." As the crowd closed to within a few meters, children in the back began singing. A simple human lullaby, soft and gentle. The contrast between the peaceful song and the terrifying situation made Zektar's combat instincts scream warnings. He finally understood what Grix had been trying to tell him in the cantina. When humans decided to protect something they cared about, they became something else, something that had evolved over millions of years to be the perfect persistence hunter. They didn't need to be stronger or faster or better armed. They just needed to never, ever give up. "Helix," Zektar said quietly, "put down your weapon." "Sir, put it down. We're surrendering." "But, sir, that's an order." One by one, Zektar's remaining team members lowered their weapons. Even Mind Node 7 seemed to understand that further resistance was pointless. Zektar dropped his own weapon and stepped away from Dr. Vasquez. "We surrender," he called to the crowd. The circle of humans stopped advancing, but they didn't move away either. They just stood there waiting to see what would happen next. Dr. Vasquez, still paralyzed on the floor, managed to speak. "Thank you," she said simply. Within minutes, human medics were in the building, treating Dr. Vasquez and checking on Zektar's team. The colonists didn't act like victors or captors. They acted like people helping neighbors after a natural disaster. "Are you hurt?" asked a young doctor as she examined Mind Node 7's cybernetic implants. "These look like they might need adjustment." "Why are you helping us?" the Zephyrian asked in confusion. "Because that's what we do," the doctor replied. "You need help, so we help." Later that day, as Zektar's team prepared to leave New Harmony, Dr. Vasquez shared her research data with them. All of it. Not just the cure that their employers wanted, but dozens of other medical breakthroughs that could help species across the galaxy. "This belongs to everyone," she said as she handed over the data crystals, "including your people. Take it home, share it, use it to help others." "Why?" Zektar asked. "After everything we tried to do to you, why are you giving this to us?" Dr. Vasquez smiled. "Because maybe next time you'll remember that there are alternatives to violence. Maybe you'll think twice before taking a job that involves hurting innocent people." As their ship lifted off from New Harmony, Zektar sat in his captain's chair and stared out at the stars. His team was quiet, each of them lost in their own thoughts. Finally, he activated his personal recording device and began making an entry for the Mercenary database. "Mission report, New Harmony extraction. Target, Dr. Elena Vasquez. Result, mission failure. Recommendation, immediate refusal of any future contracts involving human targets." He paused, thinking about everything that had happened over the past 3 days. Additional notes. Humans do not fight like other species. They do not calculate odds or minimize losses or follow predictable tactical patterns. When protecting something they consider family, they become something that 10 million years of evolution designed to never give up. Another pause. They will outlast you. They will outthink you. They will turn your own team members against you simply by showing them kindness. They will adopt your soldiers given sufficient time. They will make you question everything you thought you knew about courage and sacrifice and what it means to be truly dangerous. Zektar looked around at his team. Helix was reading human medical journals that Dr. Vasquez had given him. Mind Node 7 was analyzing human tactical innovations with something approaching admiration. Even Thos was studying agricultural techniques he had learned from watching the colonists. "Personal recommendation," Zektar continued. "Find a different line of work. Because after seeing what humans are really capable of, I'm not sure I want to be a mercenary anymore." He turned off the recording and stared out at the stars again. Somewhere behind them, 800 humans were going about their daily lives, growing crops and conducting research and raising their families. They looked harmless and peaceful, but Zektar would never make the mistake of underestimating humans again. And somewhere in the ship's cargo hold, the medical research that could save millions of lives across the galaxy sat waiting to be shared freely with anyone who needed it, just like Dr. Vasquez had always intended. The most dangerous thing about humans, Zektar realized, wasn't their ability to fight. It was their ability to make you want to be better than you were.